What's up, everybody? As you can see, we're wearing green. We're bleeding green because we are fourth and go. Philly 4 for 4, so much more. I'm Dave Gleckner. That's Marc Tomasini. We're here tonight on a Thursday, right before Eagles Monday Night Football game. Going to the Bucs in week 3. We'll talk about that and so much more as we get started here on an action-packed hour of Philly sports. Marc, what's up, bud?
What up? What up? You know what it is? It's Thursday night. Got Thursday night football on the TV. Not a real slugfest over in San Francisco, but yeah, Eagles are 2-0. Kind of got out a little ugly. Just squeaking by in the end. Had a good lead at a good point, but you know, trying to figure things out, and that's what we're gonna do through the show. We're gonna get everyone through it. We're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I like it. And talking about figuring things out, we're going to talk about Eagles week 2. How we come away feeling after a, to me, good win against Minnesota Vikings on Thursday Night Football. We'll talk week 3. We'll get into other things going on in the NFL because the injuries are killing teams. Is that a byproduct of the preseason? We'll see, and we'll talk about that. Get into some 3-packs as we love. Phillies get another win tonight. Big win against the New York Mets. And then we'll see where the rest goes. But with that, let's start with the week 2 recap. Thursday Night Football. Eagles, Vikings. Marc, last year was a little easier when the Eagles faced the Vikings in week 2. I think it was 24-7. This one maybe got a little dicey until the Eagles figured out one thing, and that was that the Vikings cannot stop them running the ball. And Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni just said, forget it. Let's just pound it. And they did. And they did it over and over and over again and showed off the new toy in DeAndre Swift. Hey, I'm telling you, I was happy with this win. And people are like, oh, it's only by 6. But guess what? It was by 13. The Vikings scored a late backdoor, and then the game was over. Get the onside kick, get the first down, the game's over. It was simple as that. I never really felt threatened in the second half. As much as people want to complain this, that, or the other, we're 2-0. We've beaten a playoff team now. Beat the Patriots on the road, who aren't that bad. I'm okay with where we're sitting, and I was okay coming out Thursday night. How about you?
Yeah, I think we're plenty good to be where we are right now. 2-0. I think a lot of people are heading for the hills, and I don't really get it. Like, we're seeing one thing, as you mentioned about earlier, with injuries, but we're seeing a byproduct of the NFL. That play hasn't been great. No one's really playing well. Think about it. Like, the Chiefs are coming off a Super Bowl win. They're 1-1. They, an ugly win against Jacksonville. So nobody's really looking like, nobody's really beating the
Cowboys
football. Yeah. But
70 to 10.
then you got to go and think about it. Who have they played quarterback wise? So it's like,
no, I get it. I know I get it, but they've looked the part.
Yeah. All right, sure. I mean, we can say that, but I mean, you look at the Thursday night game. San Francisco is winning 20-12. And the Giants were shut out for pretty much the first 6 quarters. Well, they were shut out for the first 6 quarters of the season. And then they had this amazing comeback. Like, it's just not a lot of good football being played, not a lot of consistency. And, and again, I still think the Cowboys are going to be who the Cowboys are going to be. But with that being said, for us to be 2-0 where we are, and I really, truly, and this is not the homer in me, I truly do not believe that we are even playing nearly our best football. And I'm not just, again, I know we saw it last year, not just saying it. The coordinators, they got to figure a lot of things out. Not new system, but just like new way of going about things. It's very vanilla. Are they able to stretch it out? Are they able to get a little more complex with it the more comfortable they get? Will Jalen be able to read a little better? Teams are now prepping for them, so they're disguising their blitzes. They're disguising these different things, the way they attack, the line. You got Mailata saying they're seeing different things. Kelsey saying they're seeing different things. Like, when you were the hunter, now you're the hunted. Like, it's just kind of what comes with the territory after making such an impact. So I feel good for them being 2-0 and really not playing 2 good games to get there.
Yeah, I think all valid points. I think the one person probably underperforming the most right now is probably Jalen Hurts. And that's not saying he sucks. That's not saying, I'm worried or concerned. That's saying there's a wide margin from the 2022 Hurts and what I'm seeing in 2023. And I know he's going to get back to 2022,
Yeah.
if not better. He's going to be just fine. They are what you said. They're seeing different looks. Brian Flores is a Bill Belichick disciple. He was going to come up and play those blitzes. And that's when the Eagles figured out and said, all right, you want to play that? I'm just going to do this. And it worked, right? Hurts's long balls haven't been great. Even he missed Devontae on the first drive, but Devontae came back and grabbed it over the defender's head, and they settled for a field goal. I mean, that ball's 3 yards further. That's a touchdown. We're up 7-0. Right. He got Devontae later in the game, but he did have to hold up for it a little. Like, just some stuff. I mean, the interception wasn't great. Some of the other incompletions. I'm not saying he's playing bad, but I'm just saying there's so much more in him that I can't wait. I guess you're right that they're 2 average games, and they've averaged 29.5 points a game, and they're 2-0, and their quarterback's not even playing great. Like, there's all good things. Now, what it does tell me, though, is teams are out for us, and it's going to be a little bit different. You're the hunted now. You're not the hunters. So, it all things to me are very positive. Where I see negative, and tell me if I'm wrong or if you see a different point, I'm a little concerned about linebacker and safety play. I think some of the middle of the field has been exposed a little bit. Some guys are getting confused in coverage, and they're getting some balls over top. Mac Jones and Kirk Cousins both throwing over 300 yards. Last year, we were 1 or 2 in the league in pass defense. So, going to have to tighten that up a little bit. But in the end, I'm still good. I'm flying high. And Cease makes a point, yes. And conservative and cautious, I think, is fair. I think it's a fair statement, and maybe it's just he's second guessing, just not fully fluid with his reads right now. That could be it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to, I think even though he earned the contract, he feels like he's probably got to perform and earn that contract in the way that, he can't be getting careless with it. I think he wants to be a soldier, a floor general, to be able to do it. But I think he wants to not make mistakes more than he wants to prove that he's the best, if that makes sense. Like, he's not going to take, like, when you look at the way that Josh Allen, and I go back to this because he killed me week 1, but back week 2, but you look at the way that he was throwing the ball like he was trying to prove a point. Like, I'm Josh Allen, I'm the man, I can make any throw. And guess what? He didn't. He couldn't. It didn't happen. Jets defense was prepared. They were way too good for it. Jalen doesn't want to look like that. I think he wants to make sure that he's poised. And I get it. He wants to live to see another play. But at some point, he's got to, just a little bit, he's got to let go of the leash a little bit. And he's got to let it fly a little bit. Like, you can feel his hesitancy. You can feel, like he's not running as fast. And it's not a stamina thing with him. It's not a endurance thing. It just seems like he's waiting for everything to develop before he attacks it. Like, I feel like a little bit of the attack is out of him, and he's kind of just waiting for things to happen. Now, sometimes that's a good thing to let the game come to you, but then you can do that too much too, and they can get to you before you're ready to make your next move. And I think, teams, and again, and another thing, the run pass option, more people are accustomed to it now. It's not gimmicky because I think it's a legit threat. It's not the Wildcat offense, but teams are, not just because of them, they really highlighted it, but not just because of them, but teams are just figuring out in general. Like, we used the run pass offense when Nick Foles was our quarterback. Like, now he didn't run, but he was still able to make that. He was able to put the ball in the gut of a running back. The defense would bite, and then he would still be able to throw off.
Yeah, so, you're right.
So it's a lot. Jalen's just got to be able to just be a little more aggressive, and I think he'll be all right moving forward as long as he gets comfortable being a little more aggressive.
Yeah. So I got to ask probably, the biggest question coming out of that game that night, and it is real or not real. AJ Brown, like, is he just being a distraction? Is he causing a rift? I mean, we're already in week 2. We saw this. It took him probably 14 weeks to do it last year, 15 weeks. But now we're starting to see a pattern. Is it something that concerns you? So when I say real or not real, is this just smoke, or is it actually something that might hang around all year if he's not getting the rock.
Unfortunately, I can't say for sure that it's just smoke
Yeah.
because it took him so long to address it. I think, Jalen said today, so AJ finally addressed it today at his locker. And then, of course, the media goes back to Jalen because Jalen already spoke on this. So he
Right.
spoke on it again. And when AJ talked about it at his locker, he said, it's not about targets. It's like, well, then what was it about? What were you so frustrated about? And then the optics don't look good because you can't say that it wasn't about targets or not getting the ball. And then Jalen force feeds the ball to you 3 times and it
Yeah.
doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So it makes me fear a little bit that this is a constant issue. And again, I really truly think he wants the best for Devontae. I think they want the best for each other and they want to do well. And I really think they need each other. And I think that AJ can't let this blunder because they really have the chance to be a great 1-2, and they can both put up similar numbers. I truly think that this could be a great thing. If this were to fall apart, that would suck for both of them. And I feel like he's feeling the pressure a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's something there to what you're saying. For me, wide receivers are tough. Obviously, they come with a little higher egos than most. I don't think that comes with the Slim Reaper, but those that get to this point at this level and at that in that sport really need to be stroked. And when he's not, and their form of getting stroked is getting the ball, and it's just not running the right way right now for AJ. And hey, this game's a little different the way teams are guarding us. So I just didn't want to see it in week 2. And I don't care if it wasn't about this or that or the other. And I get that AJ and Jalen are really good friends. Tossed around the word best a lot, but and they'll figure it out. Come on, man. This is 52 people. This is it really had nothing to do. Whatever your gripes are, it didn't have to happen then. So that's just my quick 2 cents of it. Do I trust that this team's strong enough to work through? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not worried.
I think so. I think that's the good thing is that they will be able to work through it. It's just it does suck that it's a little bit of a distraction. I think we're probably and I'm hoping that we're looking into it more than it needs to be looked into. That's my hope.
Yes,
that's where we're at, but I guess time will only tell.
It really will. But hey man, I think we fall on the same side of this game. A win's a win. Thursday night football. You're watching it now with the Niners as we spoke against a Giants team without their best player. They're going to have to battle to win this game down the stretch. A win's a win in the NFL, and especially on Thursday night football when you only have 3 days of rest. So I'll take it. And now we move on to a Tampa Bay team that there's a lot of surprising 2-0 teams in the NFL. Tampa's right up there as the most surprising, especially with the quarterback in Baker Mayfield. And as we saw how they ended the season last year, I want to say they ended up what was it? 7-8-1, 8-8-1. They were ugly. Whatever they were at the end of last season with Tom Brady, and then went out in the playoffs pretty in blowout fashion against the Cowboys. I think I think Baker has really defied expectations here, and then Tampa is they got to be taken seriously.
Yeah. No, they absolutely have to be taken seriously. I think Baker knows. I mean, look, here's the thing. Baker, it was supposed to be his team in Carolina. It didn't happen. He went over to LA when Stafford gets hurt, and he ends up playing really well with a lot of nobodies. Takes that momentum into Tampa Bay. 2 great receivers. That defense is good.
Yes.
Defense is pretty good. Todd Bowles is a good, is a good defensive coach. So, and they also played the Vikings and the Bears aren't who we thought that they were going to be. The Bears kind of, obviously Mike Evans, I had him in one of my fantasy leagues. Obviously he balled out the other day. But the Bears are kind of in shambles right now. They just fired their defensive coordinator. There's been a lot going on with that. That was a very weird story. I don't know if you heard about that. Something about
Something's going on there, right?
yeah, there was
A
like
couple
a
of my friends were saying maybe
house or
gambling.
something like that. I don't know. Like, but then he didn't show he didn't show up, and you know, they sorry, my leg was bleeding.
Well,
Uh,
all
he
good.
didn't, yeah, he didn't show up to the team, and they weren't sure. Like they asked Eberflus or whatever if he was going to be the defensive coordinator still. He didn't know. Now they know he's not. They fired him. Whatever. So that whole situation's weird. And then you got Justin Fields calling out the coaching staff again. But this is not me underplaying the Bucs, but I'm just saying the situation that they came to. But again, league wide, there's been a lot of issues, a lot of bad play, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknowing. Part of this, I think, comes, and I know we're going to get into it more, but I think part of this comes into the lack of preseason. But,
Yeah.
We will definitely get into that and debate that. But Tampa Bay has played as well as they should. Like you said, I agree. Baker Mayfield has defied the odds, but he's a gunslinger, and I think that he has that in him. I just don't think it's on a championship caliber, but I think he's a quarterback that you throw into any team and he could make them a 6-7 seed playoff contender. I think that's what Baker Mayfield is. And he's got Evans and Godwin at a good time.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Yes, he can. He can. I'm not saying he can't. Baker's just they played Chicago, Minnesota. I think those two teams were ranked 32nd, 31st in defense last year. If somewhere close, they were definitely in the bottom four. And I don't think either team has done much to improve the defense this season. So I still got a little bit of time. In a way, I cheer for Baker a little bit. And I'm kind of with you. Like, I think he's gotten kind of ostracized. Like when he got kicked out of Cleveland for Deshaun Watson, I was like, really? You're going to pay that guy $300 million for a guy that just got you this? Like, I do think he
got a raw deal in Cleveland. He got a raw deal. I don't think he was ever going to win there. I get the moving on from him, but what they chose to move on with didn't work out.
No, yeah, exactly. I think that's where I'm like, okay, and now Baker's kind of like, he's kind of taking advantage of that situation. He's playing the underdog role probably more than he has. He always tried to play that, and everybody does, right? But I think even more now, and he's found a place where, I mean, he's got a guy behind him in Kyle Trask who could any day as a younger quarterback take over, but they trusted the veteran. They knew they had veterans, and that's where you hit your point with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Otten at tight end. You got Rashad White, they're running back in his second year, but you got veterans up and down the offensive line. Jensen. I think they needed a guy like Baker.
Yeah.
And it's working. And it's working well. And then, but in the same sense, he doesn't scare me. Now, then again, Mac Jones didn't scare me either and found a way to throw for 300. So everything in that bowl that I just mixed up, I do think Baker could have a game. And we got to respect it. And we got to be able to, hone in here because it's Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. It's exactly what you said.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think the good thing is, and then also think about it when we look at, going from New England to coming home to play Minnesota. It's 4 days. Beginning of the season. No work in the preseason for the ones. Like, time really wasn't on their side and they still got through. So I think even more credit to them for being 2-0 right now and getting that win. And I agree with you. It really was a 13-point win. It was backdoor touchdown to get in late.
Yeah.
With that being said, I do think that the amount of time in between this game, does it make them cold a little bit? Yes. But at the same time, I think they needed it based on the fact that they played, 2 games in 4 or 5 days. I think it's needed rest. I think they hopefully, and I believe that they are in there sorting out the kinks. I think they're figuring things out. I think just as a broad, I think they're going to have a much better offensive game. Like, I don't know if I can say the same about the defense, because to allude to what you said earlier, I'm concerned about the safeties and linebackers as to this point right now. So I think they have a much better offensive game plan. So I agree with you. I really think that the Bucs will be putting up numbers offensively on Monday night.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to outscore them. I do.
Mhm.
I do. I really do agree with
Monday
that.
night shootout.
Yeah. And I think it's gonna have to I think we're gonna need one of those Jalen nights. And if we remember and look back to, let's say, his rookie season. Well, no, it's his second year, Sirianni's rookie season. We lost in the playoffs to these Bucks, right?
Yeah.
And I think he had chances in that game early on, to keep us in that game. And he threw a pick down the sideline when I think was it Smith breaking wide open? I think it was. But either way,
Yeah.
he's got some memories and he's got some things to erase going back here to Tampa. And I think he needs, like you said, I expect the Bucs to put some points on the board, 20-ish. We're going to need to have Jalen's best game of the year.
You think we need to have Jalen's best
Yes,
game?
yes, absolutely. You?
Well, are you just saying that tongue in cheek, like for these 3 games, or are you saying like it's gonna have to be like his best game of?
No, best game out of the year so far to date.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah. I agree. He can't. I agree. If he plays the way he played in New England, especially New England. Now, New England, I credit that a little bit to the weather. I know the second half was more dry, but I just think it was just a weird situation to be in. And I think they changed their game plan halfway through. But yeah, I completely agree with you. He needs to play much better than he's played in games 1 and games 2, for them, to have a decent win, to really have a decent win. I agree with you completely. And, another thing that is going on that night, Jalen's going to have the way that he lost there in the playoffs. They're honoring Rondé Barber. He's going into their Wall of Fame or whatever. I think that's telling. I think it's a shot. I think it's a sign. I know we all know the play that we think of with Rondé Barber, and they probably see it too, because that's what got them to the Super Bowl. And the 90-yard interception return for a touchdown that he picked off McNabb. It's telling. It's almost like one of those things, like, man, you're going to piss off the Eagles. Like, I know none of them were there for it or stuff like that, but it's just kind of one of those things, like, okay, like, we see what you did there. Like, you're not slick. We see it.
And it's funny. The king of pandering. We know Nick Sirianni is going to have that right, then in his targets. He's going to be able to eat that up and motivate his team just because of that. So it is interesting. We've already killed one giant when Brady tried to, return to the sidelines at halftime in New England.
Yeah.
Now we got to take it down another. Okay, I'm good with it. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But hey, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about this game in particular is Tampa, can be had a few different ways, but they're a pretty aggressive defense. But they're in the middle of the pack in probably both areas. And I'm just curious, like, if you're the Eagles, do we come back and try that physical run style again early to loosen them up, or are we bombing it early? And I'm just curious what you think, because they need to ignite this team. They need to get moving, and they haven't played for 10 days. So what are your thoughts?
In a game where Tampa Bay is capable of doing that to us, I think we got to do it to them. I think we got to get out early and often. I agree with you. We got to throw the ball up there. I mean, I think the tide kind of turned a little bit in New England. Like, we got off to the fast start, but then I think we were able to hang in the game when we started throwing the ball down the field. We saw how effective Devontae was in against Minnesota, throwing the ball down the field to him. I think the Bucs defense is susceptible to the long ball. I think really where they, excel is their linebacker play. I think they can get some pressure up front. So if they can, I love what they did with DeAndre Swift. When we traded for DeAndre Swift, I'm like, that's kind of how you have to use him. Now, I know durability wise, he can't sustain that, because I really do think that he could be a not a full-time bell cow, but he could be a legit number one running back.
Yeah.
They have that option in their back pocket. I think they need to treat it as such. If throwing the ball down the field isn't working, then you resort to it. If the game allows you to do it, if you're able to contain Evans and Godwin, but if not, if you're going to be in a shootout, then really treat it like a shootout and really just go after it. I think they need to throw the ball down the field early and often.
I'm with you. That's where I was. That running game is so important. To me, it's late in the game. Establish early that you're going to, challenge these guys and go deep and then loosen up the run game instead of vice versa, where you just Tampa may be expecting that run game and stack the box. And if you're 3-and-out early, that presents a challenge. So be that first quarter scoring team that you were last season, so good at, and open this thing up and go after it. So that's what I'm expecting Monday night as well. So Mark, I'll punt it over to you, proverbially. Tell me score, how it happens, and who wins.
Okay. I like the Eagles to end up 3-0 when all is said and done Monday night. They have enough rest. Like I said, I think we're going to get a much better offensive game. Defense is still going to be suspect. I think we're going to still be susceptible. I think Godwin and Evans both have good games. I think Baker's able to throw the ball, but I do think we get some pressure on him. So I also think that Baker will throw a pick or two, turnover, gets us, going a little bit. With that being said, I like the Eagles here. I think this is going to be a shootout. I like 35-31 Eagles.
Wow. Okay. And I mean, listen, we saw a shootout last week. I think we both predicted high scoring games in Minnesota or against Minnesota. I'm not going to go quite that high, but I'm with you. I mean, I think we're kind of trending where we thought this team would be. There's still going to be some speed bumps. There's still be some hurdles we have to jump. And it's going to be a little harder than it was last year. It's just the way it's going to be. We really did come in as a surprise, but also I think we're hit some favorable spots where this year everyone's going to be a grind. This one's going to be a grind too. I think the Eagles pull this one out 27-21. I think in the end, they're probably going to have to make another defensive stop like they did similar to week one against New England late in the game. But I think the pressure, I think that's going to be the key. I think the Eagles actually create enough pressure this week to create probably their best sack performance of the year. But where they lose again or have struggles again, I should say, is in the defensive backfield. I mean, against these two receivers, it's going to be tough. So, but then Eagles 27-21, 3-0, babe. And then we're moving on to Washington.
Yep.
Which, by the way, is a home game. They're only, I know it's their only, I think, home 1 o'clock game. They might have one other 1 o'clock game.
I think I feel like they have 3 total 1 o'clock games. One of them is like the last Sunday of the season, like week 18.
Oh, that could change. Yeah. That makes sense.
Always be flexed out of that, but I'm pretty sure that they, have one other 1 o'clock game. But like you said, that might be their only home 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm going to look now.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we'll look at this. I missed a few comments. 40-35. Look, I like it, Cease. And, it's funny that you mentioned this. Baker better than Mantel? Absolutely. And then question, is Swift the lead back or are they going to split the touches with Penny and Scott? It's Swift. I think he earned that. By the way, have you seen this dude's dad?
Oh, yeah. He's a stud. He's jacked beyond belief.
He's an alpha male, bro. He is a big dude. But it's pretty cool. What was he Camden or Atlantic City? I forget.
Philly.
Philly. I thought he was a Jersey guy for some reason.
No. Yeah. So he's Philly. So Swift went to St. Joe's Prep.
Okay.
He did, and when he did his college announcement video, he did it along. He was running all throughout Philly, and then ended up, picking Georgia.
Okay.
He's Philly.
Okay.
This is home for him. Yeah.
Oh no, I knew it was home. I thought for some reason he was South Jersey. I know there's a bunch of running backs that did come out of here. They're local. So.
Right. Jonathan Taylor, Isaiah Pacheco. I feel like there's another one I'm missing too.
Another one's I know Pacheco was Rutgers. Yeah.
Yeah, and Pacheco was Vineland, I think. Jonathan Taylor was Woodrow Wilson, I want to say.
Yep.
And
There's
yeah,
another one. It'll come to me soon.
and also, and just to up, so both the Commanders games are 1 o'clock. So in week, I want to say so the Eagles game at home, 10-1, and then the Eagles game at Washington, 10-29. They're both 1 o'clock games, and then it's week 17 at home versus the Cardinals on New Year's Eve. That is a 1 o'clock game also. The week 18 Giants is TBD. So
yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, see, a good point. They did it's a blow, but did you see who they're playing? I mean, it's a blow, but they are playing the Arizona Cardinals.
yeah.
I kind of like. I think Trayvon Diggs is actually a liability at times for them, but but the gambling sense, he does help them out. I get it.
He's Asante Samuel. It's he got burned a lot, but he also made a lot of picks. Like that's you give and you take. Like the year, I think his rookie year, he I think gave up like 1,100 yards receiving.
Yeah.
Now he also led the league in interceptions, I think, with like 7 or 8. But again, he also gave up 1,100 yards. So you take the good with the bad. Like that's what you do with a cornerback like that.
But losing him for the whole season it is a fact.
No,
it is tough. I'm not downplaying it.
Right. No, that's a shot to their defense because they don't have somebody like they're relying on what's his face? Stephon Gilmore to go back
they traded
to
from
his prime.
Indianapolis. Yeah.
Right, to go back to his prime for, to be their number one. And he's not there anymore. Like, still good, but he's not number one cornerback anymore, unless he proves me wrong. But, he's been on the decline. He's getting older.
Yeah, someone just shut the lights off on me while I'm doing my show. Nice. Good. Yeah, thanks, fam. But anyway, hey, a lot of other things in the NFL. So I'm glad we can segue to that. Speaking of things. I'm not an injury guy. I don't like to see gruesome stuff. That Nick Chubb thing was not good to me. I couldn't watch it. How about you?
So I wasn't watching the game live, and then I heard about it, and then I saw the first, like the initial hit that I saw on Twitter. I was just like, I even like went like that when I saw that one, and then I saw from Pro Football Doc the one where it zoomed up.
Yeah. I didn't even get there
that way. Oh, I saw it. Your leg's not supposed to bend that way. It's
will he play again?
My one friend was like, "See, career ender," and it doesn't sound like he didn't like rupture any like aortic valves or anything like that. Obviously. So that's a good thing. It wasn't life threatening because you would think with something like that like that's a possibility, but it was ACL, MCL, and PCL. I think all of them need to be repaired. So I think there's at least 2 surgeries that he's got to go through. Like he's got to do I think it's the MCL first, and then the ACL and the PCL once his MCL recovers. Like I think next year is already a wash for him at least. It's not good. Like I mean, if he were to be able to come back, it wouldn't be until November or December, and that's like that's probably pushing it. And it's just like I just don't see next year even being a possibility for him. But I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor. I don't know, but it's rough. It honestly could be a career ender. It might just be one of those things where he got his second contract. If you really don't want to take that chance and screw up everything.
Yeah. And so then we saw some other things. That's 2 Monday nights in a row, by the way, with Aaron Rodgers and Nick Chubb.
Well, they said all 3 of those injuries were within 10 days of each other.
Yeah, and Saquon getting the high ankle sprain. Obviously, he's not playing tonight.
That could have been a lot worse.
It definitely could have been. You're just seeing a lot of injuries, and I don't know right now, if that is back to a reflection on teams not playing the preseason. Who knows? But I can tell you, it's a little scary. And the Eagles were one of the most, or least injured teams in the league last year. So we've
It's
already
coming
seen
back to bite them this year.
it
And
is with Gainwell, Bradbury, all just to name a few.
I've seen a lot of quad injuries, a lot of pull quads. Like
I have seen thigh quad injuries. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of them. Like you've seen, like Aaron Jones, he had an amazing game week 1, and on his second touchdown, like it was a 35-yard catch and run, and at the 5-yard line, he's pulling up on his quad. I think it wasn't Pickens, Deontay Johnson, he's quad. I mean, just a lot of people. I've been seeing a lot of quad injuries. Jerry Judy, like all this kind of stuff. It's just very weird. Like it's like almost like it's not as much the ACL. I mean, the ACL is happening for sure, but there was like a couple years ago where I feel like every other person was getting an ACL injury. I mean, now Trayvon Diggs today ACL, right? So then it makes you think: should they be playing more in the preseason? Are they not doing enough? Because the thing is, like, we complain that we look at the guys, the Andy Reid days. They did 2-a-days. They did 3-a-days. They were out there in the heat. They did 3-hour days, like whatever. They pushed you to the bone. They had a lot more just like caveman clunky injuries, like broken this, broken that. Now it's all these soft tissue, non-contact injuries. It's like, have we changed the way that we're conditioned? And I don't know. I feel like there's no right or wrong answer either way. Like or there is right and wrong answers either way. Like,
no, I'm with you. Like that's why I'm just listening. I don't know what the right answer is, and I think only sports science and time will tell. But I can tell you, like it's just this feels like it's just not now. Like Cooper Cup before the season, there's just been a lot of things, and that's with the hamstring. You've seen a lot of hamstrings too. You're gonna miss Jamal Williams this week out of New Orleans with the hamstring. It's just like you said, soft tissue, and it's been surprising to the extent that it's really impacting teams greatly from the standpoint of competitiveness. Now, concussions are a problem too, right? Devontae Adams almost had one. I guess he's clear of that protocol, but Anthony Richardson's sitting in it now. Just a lot of things going on in the NFL, and it just makes me wonder what's right. I don't know. We'll all figure it out at some point, but as long as it's not hurting our team more than it's leading to be so far, like you said, a few significant injuries, but ones I think they aren't season ending. That's the key.
Right. A lot of nagging injuries.
Yeah. Now, Mark, I think it's time for the 3-packs. Let's move on to our betting segment. Last week, you wanted to. I'm still trying to find my paperwork, but I went 3-1 on windailysports.com website. So I'm going to claim 2-1 here, knowing that I probably I probably definitely had one of those losses and then won the other two. Get me to 4-2 on the season so far. It's been, the first few weeks of the season are always tough. Either I'm dialed in or I'm way off. I'd say right now I'm slightly dialed in. I think I'm getting the feel for which way the season's going. So I'm feeling all right going into week 3 here. And with that said, I don't mind leading off. To give you a second there to just punch those numbers real quick here. The Niners just taking a 30-12 lead. Wow, I was a little worried about that number tonight. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know what to think. That number never moved off 10. My theory of this week is desperate teams. There's a lot of desperate teams out there. There's a lot of surprising 0-2 teams out there. And I think it's going to be tough for some of these teams to, if they get to 0-3, I mean, they're probably, starting to look forward to 2024 and it's not even October. So I'll take my first one. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos. I know, Miami's the darling of the season so far, and very well it should be. If it's not Dallas, it's Miami. 2 very good wins being the Chargers and the Patriots. Those teams are combined 0-4. Now they get another 0-2 team. So they haven't played a team with a win yet. But I just think, Sean Payton's going to have something up his sleeve to try and, whether he has Surtain follow him and him being Tyreek Hill all across the field, or is able to somehow just keep them inside, and kick field goals. I think he's going to be able to figure things out. And the Denver offense hasn't been terrible. Now, it's been a little fluky, a couple long bombs from Marvin Mims, a Hail Mary at the end of last game. But this Miami defense hasn't been good either. I think this is a week Denver is able to hang in, maybe even pull off 1-2. I'll take them plus 6.5.
Wow, potential outright in Miami. That would
Potential.
be something to see. Yeah, no. I can dig it. I can dig it. It's something where I think the way that they got back into that game the other day, maybe they roll off momentum. I mean, I think that's their best shot right now. I was gonna save this one for last, but getting into the point where I don't want to stray too far away from the subject that you're talking about teams potentially being 0-3. We have a matchup in Minnesota that is so intriguing. It's the
Yes.
Chargers at the Vikings. Both teams who are highly touted have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, really, Chargers have talent on both sides of the ball. We've talked about it last week. What's his name? Brandon Staley has just been an awful head coach for them because what I would give to have the talent that they have on that team, both offensive and defensively, the fact they haven't gotten a win yet. I mean, and they're not playing Kansas City. They lost to Tennessee this week, and Miami. I that was a good one, but I think they should have beaten Tennessee. I don't know how. I know Vrabel's a hard coach, but that I think that's really bad that you can't pull that win off. With that being said, both backs are against the wall, and I don't look at either of these teams like there's no possible way that they could be out at this point. And the Chargers are just so good on offense and defense. Like they have so much talent, they just can't put it together. And I know they've been close games, but that's what Brandon Staley doesn't do. He doesn't win close games. But with that being said, this line's 1.5 points. The Chargers at the Vikings. And this is kind of hopeful because I don't want the Vikings to be good and have to deal with them. I'd rather see the Chargers do well, but I'd like the Chargers here to go into Minnesota with their backs against the wall. I mean, Brandon Staley will screw this up one way or another down the road. I don't think it's this Sunday, so I like the Chargers plus 1.5.
Yeah, I wasn't big on Minnesota coming into the season. I had Tennessee last week against Chargers. Do I feel fortunate? Yes, I do, but I know it's Brandon Staley, so I'm fine. Thank you again. Any close game, he's going to bound to find a way to lose, and it might not even have been as much him this week as it was Justin Herbert. Had 3 straight incompletions in overtime, and I guess start doubting him a little bit too.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has the heart of a lion. He's more a cat, but we'll see. I think the better team. And now, if you're jumping on him now, Austin Eckler is not fully ruled out yet. If he gets cleared to play, that thing probably moves to 2-3. So it's a good number to get on now. I like it. Another one I like. I'm going to go to Sunday Night Football. I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders minus 2.5 home to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was big on the Steelers last week. One of the big reasons was Cleveland had lost 19 straight regular season games in Pittsburgh. Yes, they won this one odd playoff one in the COVID 2020 season, but 19 straight regular season game, they made it 20 last Monday. They found ways to lose that game. Deshaun Watson fumbling it away at the end. Guess what? Steelers aren't very good. And that was shadowed by defensive performance, putting up 14 points. Kenny Pickett stinks. And while I'm not that big on Vegas, and I don't think they're great, this is their first home game. And now Pittsburgh's coming off a short week. I think it's a really nice spot for Vegas, and I think they're going to get kind of devalued in the betting market. I'll take Vegas minus 2.5. It's under the key number for me. And win that game.
Yeah, I like that for you. I wanted to touch on the fact that I am 1-5, but I easily could be 0-6. What we didn't talk about is what happened in San Francisco or LA.
Mm-hmm.
With the whole McVay kicking that field goal.
7.5.
If McVay doesn't kick that field goal, because I think that I took that number when it was 8, so I had the number at 8. But either way, regardless, the fact that McVay has the audacity to say today that he had no clue that the situation or whatever. I don't know. Something smells fishy. It doesn't.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I really do truly believe he was trying to kick the field goal, go onside kick. He was hoping for like 2
Maybe like
seconds.
you
I,
would have
I
2
don't know how
seconds
you
left and do something. I know that's
like. I don't know how with 5 seconds left you're ever going to kick
right.
it through the uprights that quick. But you weren't going to throw a Hail Mary either in that amount of time and get the onside. There was no.
Right. The only thing that I thought was and this is far fetched, and this was, train of thought is like maybe they're worried about a point differential or something getting into a tiebreaker, and like you have the same record as the Niners, and you guys are 1-1 against each other on the season. It comes to point differential or points for, I get points where you can. That was the only other thing that I could think. But yeah, I just think that it was an odd move to say the least. But with that, yes.
But you got your win.
I got the win. I got the win. Didn't matter because I lost all my bets Sunday anyway. So with that being said, I'm gonna jump into my next. I originally was thinking about it, and there's the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. We saw the Jaguars take Kansas City the whole game and lose in a very boring game. Not a lot of offense. And I was like, you know what? Texans here, 8.5. Jags can't do much with that. That was my original thought. Then I thought about it. They've lost Derek Stingley Jr. And the Jags really played the Chiefs very well. Mm-hmm. And the Jags did miss. Calvin Ridley caught a ball, but just got pushed out of bounds at the last second. He actually had 2 potential touchdowns there. I kind of like Jacksonville in this game. It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points for Jacksonville. But you know what? I'm going to go with it and hope that they build off momentum. It was a tough loss for them. They hung in there in that game, but I'm going to take the Jags minus 8.5. Last minute switch.
Yeah, I thought about that game, and I looked at it and I said, man, Houston feels tempting. We know we've liked the big numbers before. I went back and looked. I think they lost 31-3 to Jacksonville last year and 13-6. They scored a total of 9 points against Jacksonville. 13-6 was like one of the last weeks of the year, so Jacksonville wasn't even playing starters.
Right.
It was odd. It was odd to me to see that Houston really couldn't do anything much against them. So I don't hate it. Like at first I felt Houston, but now I see where you're at. So I don't hate that pick at all. What I do hate is where I'm landing on this next one, because I've been coin flipping. Like, it just looks too easy for me to take Seattle at home against a Bryce Young led team that's 0-2, and he's going to be lost in that stadium. But I don't know, it just looks too easy. So I try and stay away from too easy. Instead, I'm going to go to Cleveland. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns -3 against the Tennessee Titans. For what it's worth, I took the Titans last week. They did it ugly. It took a Treylon Burks long pass to get them back into that game. It took some dubious play calling by the Chargers. Vrabel can throw his headset up in there and cheer all he wants. He doesn't have a really good team there, and they are very bad against the pass. So losing Nick Chubb isn't as big of a deal this week as it would have been in any other week. Watson lights him up. I think if Cooper plays, has a big game. Elijah Moore, big game. I think Cleveland gets back on the right track and dominates this Tennessee team. I'll take Cleveland -3.
I've been seeing a lot of action going away towards the Browns on that one. I think it checks out, makes sense. Your intro was where I actually am going. So I am touching this Panthers-Seahawks game. It does look too easy, Panthers -6, but there's something that you were missing in what you said. Bryce Young is not playing, or I've heard that he's looking like he's not going to be playing.
So then you got Dalton.
So at the line, right, they said Dalton's the guy. Now, the thing is, you can think about it. Dalton, he's a seasoned pro, seasoned vet. He can be able to handle his own, which I think is definitely possible. But Bryce Young, with the talent that he has, and they're just not able to do anything right now. If it's me, and I think the Seahawks ride momentum here. They won this game in Detroit, hard fought game. It's always high scoring affairs when it comes to the Seahawks and the Lions. And I think Seahawks at home against the Patriots or the Panthers. I like them in this spot here. I think Geno gets it going. Give me the Seahawks by a touchdown.
Hey, listen, I'm telling you, if I take a side, it's the Seahawks.
No,
I
of
just-
course,
yeah,
of course.
yeah.
It does look too easy, but I think this number, I wonder. Now, I didn't see what this number was before the injury to Bryce Young, but I'd be interested to see if that really moved the needle much, maybe a point or two. I'm guessing maybe it started out like five
Yeah.
and a half. I'm guessing, but it's at 6 now. I still like Seattle. Take care of business at home.
I like it. Okay, that wraps it up for our NFL picks this week. Let's move real fast here as we move into the last 10 minutes of our show. Talk about a little bit of baseball. We kind of glossed over the past few weeks, got it, hit it quick, but I'm seeing something good. Like I talked to somebody in reference to the Phils the other day. Was I'm tired of seeing us get to 15 over 500, and then back to 12, then up to 14, then back to 11. And it has felt a little seesaw-ish, if that's a word. And what we're seeing, though, in these last few games, winning 2 out of 3 in Atlanta, but not just 2 out of 3 in Atlanta, the way they did it in that last game, surrendering the lead, but then having to throw out a runner in the ninth, Castellanos making a big play, and then winning in extras. I thought it was huge for their kind of confidence beating the Braves like that, because the Braves have beat them 3-4 the week before, celebrated on our field, their NL East championship, blah, blah, blah. I don't care, because in the end, we talked about it last week, I think that could fuel the Phillies. And it kind of did this week when they won 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. And then tonight coming back, this was a very, very solid win tonight against the New York Mets, winning 5-4. Yes, you can say it's the Mets, but the Mets have played some decent baseball of late. They've always played well against the Phillies. The Phillies were overwhelming favorites tonight with Ranger on the mound. Not an easy kind of position to play in. And they did it enough where they lost the lead only to get tied 4-4. And Castellanos comes up and hits one almost in the upper deck. And then the bullpen just shuts it down, kind of the way, the recipe you want in the playoffs. So, yeah, the seesaw-ish has been in effect for 3-4 weeks here. But this last 4-game stretch here, 3-1 against division rivals, I'm really pumped about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good place for them to be in, to be playing divisional opponents going forward. They have the Mets for a couple more, Pittsburgh, then back to the Mets again. So I think it's a good test week, only because the reason why I say that, I mean, we know Pittsburgh's out of it, but it's a division rival.
I tell you what, they're only 10 games under 500. They're playing decent. They have 72 wins.
Yeah.
More that surprised me thinking of Pittsburgh.
Right.
I'm just being not like
no.
They were out of it, but
they started off hot, and I think
they did.
Why we kind of overlook them right now is because they started off so hot and then they just completely fell off.
True.
Back to where they've been. The reason why I think this Mets series, having to play them 6 more times after tonight is good, because the Mets are playing carefree. They're out of it. They know they're out of it. It's always tough to play a team who really doesn't have anything to play for. So, I like that they're taking care of business. Again, the Braves really didn't have as much to play for, but they still are vying for the first overall seed in the NL, whether it happens or not. So it's not like they weren't playing hard. They had to be.
Right. I agree.
Urgent. So I like where the Phillies' mindset is. They have to be treating every game like the playoffs right now, just to keep themselves in that mindset, to keep themselves fresh, to keep themselves in that zone.
No, it's true. The Braves had gotten swept by the Marlins over the weekend, kind of a hangover series after they won the division. So you knew they were kind of licking their chops coming into the Philly series. And they threw Strider. They threw Elder and Wright, I think. And, 3 guys that they're probably, and combined with Fried, are going to be their guys in the playoffs. So it was not a laydown series. It was a big series. Yeah. And now here was an interesting, and you're starting to see it, Kimbrel in the 8th, Alvarado in the 9th. I think Topper has already made his choice. And you're starting to see it, a little consistency there where he's had to, no doubt about it, he's been playing with some of the personalities and some of the injuries, but now with them both fully healthy, it looks like we're set in a mode here. Kimbrel 8, Alvarado 9. And I applaud him for this because as much as Kimbrel has gotten you this far, and as much as he's been the closer 80% of the season, Alvarado's the right guy to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's been consistent since he, went back down to the minors last year and came back up. He's had his ups and downs a little bit this season, but I think, he's a guy who kind of rallied the team too. He's he wants to be there for the moment, and I think he's kind of earned it. He really has. Like,
No,
and fortunate because we had a good thing going there at Kimbrel. I think he's just tired. I think he's exhausted. I think he's not focused. I think he's just kind of pressing to get strikes over the plate. Like we said, we're seeing everybody steal bases on us when that's going on, because he's not even looking back the runners. So I think it's a good reprieve for him. Hopefully there's still some high leverage situations to get him into, and hopefully he starts playing a little looser. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it's everything that you said, and it might be parts of it. I'm with you. The guy's just what he is. I mean, he can get hot and can get cold. And Kimbrel
stretch there, yeah.
I just don't know if he has any clue where his fastball's going most days. And your best point in that whole analysis was the base stealing. I think that is a really, really big issue going into the playoffs. It's bigger in the ninth. Obviously, it's magnified even more than it is in the eighth. But yeah, that's a factor. But Alvarado, just his stuff is electric. 100-mile-an-hour fastball, 96-mile-an-hour cutter, the slider at 92. Like, come on, man. Like, as long as he's on, nobody's hitting him. So, I like it. They just got to get a couple other guys right. Hoffman's been good for him, but Sir Anthony still needs some fine tuning. But
I know it's really unfortunate. That's who we really needed to come around this year, and he just hasn't. It's been a shame.
But if
our
he finds
would be elite if he were electric, if he were what he's been in the past.
Yeah, same with Soto too. If they could dial those two in, Soto's been good, not great, but you dial that type of stuff in with Soto, Alvarado, Kimbrel, and Dominguez. I mean, teams aren't going to get hit off. So we'll see. But I will tell you this much. Right now, it looks like Arizona. Arizona's on a nice little streak here. They're 5 games in a row. Cubs are flailing. They're falling apart a little bit. It'll be interesting to see who gets that last wild card spot between the Cubs, the Giants, and the Marlins. It may even be Miami, but it's looking more and more like Arizona. And I will say that concerns me a little bit. Mm-hmm. When you get Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly as a 1-2 that can really match up well with Wheeler and whoever we go with that too, we'll have to see. Now, the Diamondbacks are negative run scoring differential, even though they're 8-9 games over 500. So, maybe they are the better matchup from that standpoint. Their offense is good, not great. They got a couple of good players, Corbin Carroll, obviously, Ketel Marte. But it's a lineup that can be had. It's the pitching that
is a little worried.
Yeah, like outside of 1-2, it is bad. Like I don't even, I've been watching Brandon Pfaadt. He stinks. What's the other guy that pitched out there? I don't come to my name. They don't have anything outside those two. So maybe. But in a 3-game series, that was one team I was like, But, I mean, again, we'll be home, and I think that'll help.
Yeah, I think I like their chances against because you said Arizona, the Diamondbacks. But I agree. I think their lineup is good. I think our pitching, if they're what they're supposed to be, will be able to handle it.
Yep.
But yeah, you get a good game from Zach Gallen. It's
it's tough.
It is tough.
It's tough. He was the NL starter in the All-Star game this year.
Right.
And he came second in the NL Cy Young last year. He's having another. Now, Zach Gallen at home is a different pitcher than Zach Gallen on the road. His ERA is almost 2 points higher on the road, so that'll be a good
local kid.
Yeah.
I forget. I think he's Philly, but
no. I thought St. Joe's Prep again, but then you said that was Swift, so that's why it'll come to me. Cardinal O'Hara, maybe.
That sounds more. Oh no, he's Bishop Eustace. Oh,
Oh, okay, Jersey.
oh, Bishop Eustace.
Yeah, that's one of my guys around here, Blaine Neal as well. So in Pittsburgh Marlins. But hey, man, I'll tell you what, we're gonna have October baseball. We're gonna have
Yeah.
Red October. I got my shirt saved already. Yes, yes. And this Mets kind of series is really going to go well for them. 4 games against the Mets, winning the first. Like I said, Pittsburgh, I think, will go well for them from the standpoint of these teams are going to want to beat the Phillies. They have been somewhat of thorns in their side. If they can kind of, pluck those thorns per se, I think this is really good momentum going into the playoffs. The Pirates beat the Phillies 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh earlier this year.
Right.
If they can just, kind of steady the course and beat these teams the way they should beat those teams, it's going to really, I think it's going to bode well for the early part of the playoffs. So I'm pumped. I can't wait. And you know what I can't wait for? Monday Night Football. At times, I don't always love when my team plays on it. But right now, when the weather's nice and warm and I can still watch some Sunday football, but maybe go out and do some other things.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad my team's on Monday night. I'm looking forward to the weekend and getting some good football. And more importantly, there's some great college football games, Mark. If you're keeping an eye on Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Iowa, Florida State, Clemson. There's another one out there that's slipping my tongue. Oregon, Colorado.
That's what I was going to say. Colorado is obviously the sight to see right now.
Yeah, and it's just going to be a good weekend of football. It is like that first, wow. I can't wait.
Yep. And we are in those, we're getting closer to 60s. And
I'm good with 60s.
Yeah.
I'm just not good with this turning dark at 6:30 stuff.
I know it's an adjustment. I mean, I had a hard time when one night all of a sudden it was dark at 7:45, like pitch black.
Yeah.
What?
I need the 9 o'clock. Yeah.
It made those. It seemed like the night before it was like 8:30, and then the next night it was 7:45. I said, "What the hell is going on?"
Yes, I know. But hey, it's gonna be a good weekend, and even better, we'll be back here next week on the Heat Ratio Sports Network. Listen, lots of big things happening here. I know for the last year, Mark and I have been doing Fourth and Go, which has been kind of the mainstay on Heat Ratio. It went a little dormant, and it wasn't dormant because this network was trying to transition, fade, or anything like that. No, there were bigger things happening in the background. We've got some big news coming up, maybe even some affiliates and some coverages happen at some local sporting events where we'll be the primary people doing the pre-post game and maybe even some halftime and play call and stuff. So stay tuned. News is coming soon. I don't want to break it. I'm going to leave that to some other people here. But Mark, Dave, me, I know we're going to be fully a part of it, and I can't wait to be a part of this takeover. I mean, we've seen other places here try and take over the Philly sports landscape, and that's great. I don't think we're far behind. So hang with us. Big things are coming. Mark, you got anything?
No, absolutely. We're ready to move forward, and we're going to step our game up a little bit. So come along for the ride. Buckle up. We're going.
Awesome. See you in 7 days. Go Birds. Let's get this win.